ប្រិយមិត្តរៀន podcast វល់ត្រឡប់មកវិញជាមួយនឹង episode ដឹងលេខប្រហែលទេខានធ្វើយូរហើយ break មួយខែជាងហើយឥឡូវជាស្រ័យផងពីពេលនេះទៅគឺនិយាយអង់គ្លេសដោយសារភ្ញៀវថ្ងៃនេះគឺជនជាតិបរទេសទាំងពីរមិនជនជាតិបរទេសទាំងពីរបាទហើយពួកគាត់ជា podcast hoster ដែរដែលអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាធ្លាប់បានឃើញខ្ញុំគិតថាមិនមួយចំនួនពួកគាត់ធ្លាប់បានឃើញនេះគឺ Rising Giants podcast ដែលជា podcast មួយផ្ដោតសំខាន់មែនទែនទៅលើ investment ក៏ដូចជាតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងបញ្ហាមិនបញ្ហាគេហៅថាប្រធានបទតាក់ទងមួយសេដ្ឋកិច្ចលុយចំនួនផ្សេងៗក៏ដូចជា entrepreneur នៅក្នុងស្រុកខ្មែរខ្ញុំក៏បានទៅ podcast គាត់ដែរដូចជាក្នុង episode one was on your episode like 95 yeah okay យើងជួបជាមួយនឹង Max and Dom បាទជំរាបសួរបាទជំរាបសួរ okay you don't have to look at the camera do you feel weird being on my podcast
a little bit yeah
a little bit
yeah I think for the first time we've done a podcast beforehand with VC Jeremy Al before so this is really our second time
this is your second time being on a podcast
being interviewed
okay
yeah
that's
I've
good.
done one or two like other like small ones but
not like long
not like
form
this.
Yeah. Prepare yourself okay so yeah like we talked earlier to be honest I don't want to be too broad but of course it's a good opportunity for me the local to understand like you know the two expats one is mostly here and one's always back and forth and I feel like a lot of local they don't understand that like the importance of learning like foreign language or we call it right like learning the foreign language to like you know for your own goods your own benefits I mean you don't have to be English it can be Chinese or French or whatsoever but when I was in high school people like really didn't care about learning like foreign language at all they were just it's not a things but now I feel like there's a battling between local who sort of try to preserve the Khmer linguistic literature and not like having like especially people like me it's like a public figure to speak Khmer and speak English at the same time and I mean they're not wrong but for you for example is it hard being here not understanding Khmer or like have you tried learning
yes so it's to answer your first question it's a bit of a mix so in a lot of conversations you know for at least personally I mean, mostly it's in Khmer so a lot of it is not understanding what's going on but in terms of conversations though there's an aspect of EQ for mannerisms and being able to understand what somebody's trying to communicate so in a way of not being able to understand the language there is the other aspect of being able to see mannerisms and movements to better understand on our side though we have actually just most recently been taking introductory Khmer lessons as well for essentially conversation style so it's a work in progress
do you speak some I want to hear your accent I mean
like okay so you know Knam Chmoa Dom
okay. Oh that's a good accent
yeah
you clean cut
okay
not too like barang likes
yeah
this is like konkat like you know like half Khmer half American style that's good it's good
yeah but yeah I don't know if we'll always have that I will always have that American twang to it for sure in any language that I'll speak but yeah I would say that's to answer your question that's you know it's rare for that
yeah what about you Max
I think in the world that we're in Cambodia we're doing like the business startups investment space in general that's kind of where we operate and for us the podcast the reason we did it in English is well first of all we don't speak Khmer but secondly it's like if you want to get the word out about Cambodia to as wide an audience as possible like and try and our goal is to get more like international business people international investors coming into Cambodia and understanding that there is like more opportunity than they might think that their perception is not the same as reality so when they actually come here they learn that there are some really interesting opportunities so that's why yeah for us that's been why English has been the focus. And yeah, we're in a lot of different business environments that are actually still primarily English, even in Cambodia. Like, for instance, if you're a startup founder, you kind of have to speak English because you're raising, if you're trying to raise capital in like Singapore, or you're trying to go regional, which most startups are trying to do, the investment materials will always need to be in English.
That's good. Actually, a good tip for people who are planning to do like start a startup, or who's in the startup business. Who in the startup journey. Yeah, better put in that way. They actually, I think a lot of them now realizing that learning foreign language, especially like say English, it's quite important to like advance them to the next steps or better like situation. Sorry to start the podcast this way, but I always curious because like it has to come from like foreigners expressing themselves being here. Like for example, like I'm trying to learn English when I was a kid, but like still like I went to college in the US, I went to high school in Europe. I never really care about how my English sounds like, unless like academically in school I have to do good for sure, but like realistically I was never like forced myself to speak perfect English. Like now I don't speak perfect English, but it's a matter of understanding your friends and also what other people are trying to say. And I tend to find that English is sort of my most comfortable form of expressions. And that's I honestly looking forward to do this because I can say a lot of stuff out of my chest without harming the local. Because like I think when last week I had Uri on, he's also American, but he speaks fluent Khmer like a baby. Like his language like baby language. But and then there was a comment under the episode saying, American guy living in Cambodia tried to speak Khmer, but while the one who like was raised and born here tried to speak English and Khmer together. I'm like, bro. I was like, what's wrong with you, man? I'm not mad. I was just like laughing out. Like, seriously, it's like that. It's just something that people need to have the guts to let the feeling out in words or in like activity whatsoever, right? It's quite important. For you, for example, when you first got here, you must be frustrated to find people who actually can understand you, especially when you go to an event. Imagine you go to an event, it's only like 3 people who can speak English and the rest is just blank. Or you have to do through translators, which is kind of time consuming. I would not enjoy having a conversation through translator at all. Would you? Do you find that like sort of like consider it as a fruitful conversation?
Yeah, I could see it being a difficult situation because usually in your like stream of consciousness, when you're having a conversation, it feels like you have an initial thought when you fully understand something, and when there's a bit of a pause, even a second to think about it, it might there could be like quite a bit of difference to maybe what you would initially feel maybe right off the bat. I would say though, in terms of the frustration level, there's also a bit of, if you come into a new market or if you come into a new country, there's a bit of understanding, like from the US, going back to your point earlier about how a lot of people, students, university students, especially in the US, only focus on learning English. Like you do have Spanish classes, French classes, other language classes, but no one has the full intention of wanting to necessarily learn the language because for them it's unnecessary. A lot will just stay primarily in the US, do business in the US. For the few that do decide to expand and travel the world though, and this is just from personal experience of being, fortunate enough to have the opportunity to be able to visit several places, is that coming into a new country and understanding the challenges of a language that you don't know. It's a lot about the patience, about taking the effort yourself and really feeling like you're gonna have to just be, it's just patience in general.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest I would say fear, at the same time also investment that you have to do in terms of like learning a language. It's the patience that you have to put into, and so the amount of time you have to practice
and understanding as well.
Yeah,
because it's, I mean, going into a new place, you know, there's you can't have the idea that everybody speaks English in this example, right? It's most people, you know, it's a lot of people, you know, a lot of people, especially from the US, may have this initial feeling of going to a new country and expecting that everybody can understand them.
Go to China and you will know.
Yeah.
Dude, I was just there, man. Oh God. Yeah. I mean, no disrespect, man. The language is quite big too, you know. They probably someday will overtake the English for sure. But bro, I want to order coffee. It was so hard. It's like, how do I get a coffee? I got tea only, hot water. That's it's just hard, right? And then realizing that my wife, she speaks some Chinese, and she never got to practice it, and she was forced to speak Chinese because it was hard for her to speak English. And then all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, I can speak now." I'm like, really? But her Chinese is quite good, but it's just like once you put under pressure of like, you must communicate in the local language. You'll find your way. And then that's probably the key value of many people, especially for English, for example. Like this, like they ask me why, like, is it hard for them to understand or to speak up in English? I'm like, because you think it is a problem. You think look at it as it like a responsibility, not as it like, you know, a need. Then you have the feeling of being pressured to speak up, right? I remember my dad used to force me to speak to different tourists because we have a small restaurant, a cafe in my hometown. So once in a while we would have like Japanese or Chinese or Korean tourists, or sometimes like European or American who came through, and he always forced me to speak to them. I would just, hello, hi, how are you? Like where do you come from? It's just so basics.
Yeah,
but that helps a lot. Like it helped bump my confidence to just be me, you know. And that's why I feel like it's sort of for me it's important to raise this up in this podcast, because I want people who want to learn language, any language, to like be ready themselves to, you know, spend a lot of time committed to it. And also if you really care about learning, you will somehow somewhat accomplish it, right? But for me, it wasn't really a choice. It was just I must either like learn it or go back home because I got scholarship abroad. I was international school and my English was bad. I had no other option just to go with it. It was hard the first 2 years, but then once I can talk and stuff and understand, like I never fully understand my classes, to be honest. Like in the past, I think I was there for 7 years in school. I never really like fully understand what my class was all about. But somehow, I made it through. It's just crazy, you know? But it works. It works.
Yeah. But you know, taking that jump and taking that leap, you know, putting yourself in a situation of uncomfortability and being able to learn and embrace it. You know, that's a lot of things where, you know, especially those that are wanting to learn the language within the country, it's something that, you know, it's okay. It's fine. I mean, even learning Khmer on our side, it's a bit of the feeling of embarrassment of going up and trying to order a coffee. You know what I mean? And sounding like, oh my gosh, what I'm saying is completely wrong. But knowing that at some point, you know, as you do it consistently, whether it's small conversations, if you're at a coffee shop ordering a drink, or a restaurant ordering food, or you know, and the tuk-tuk, just really having very basic conversation as you consistently get more and more comfortable with more or less like the baby speak of it.
Yeah.
Progressively it gets better, or it should, at least, the more that you practice, and that's okay. And maybe that's if that's finding an individual, a group, a safe place to have this kind of practice. Maybe that's an outlet of being able to do that.
No, but I think you're in the right country of practicing the local language, though, because we don't really make fun of tourists or foreigner or expat who try to speak our language. We look at it as cuteness, like they think it's cute. Like honestly, I can speak on behalf of any Cambodian. I think Max knows this too. Like you see the expression when they hear what you're trying to speak the Khmer. It's all smiling. They're not like making fun of you. They're not like try to bully you of the way you sound. It just they encourage you to speak, and it is one of the most important factor that in a way it encourage expat and tourists to learn the language. Or also there are some negative aspect that I've heard from the expat themselves saying that Khmer is very hard to learn because the dialects and the pronunciation is just hard for the tongue. But please, every language is hard to learn. If it is easy, then everybody can speak like 10 to 20 languages. Come on. You cannot point your finger at a language and say it's hard.
Well, honestly, English is one of the hardest. It's hard. It's one of the hardest languages.
It is.
So it
is.
Yeah,
I admit it.
Just a quick backstory. So both my parents are actually immigrants from Czech Republic, and so when my mom would always tell me that when she was 16, so her family opened a restaurant in the U.S. as well, ironically called the Old Prague, but. She said that the two ways that she learned English was late at night, she would read the dictionary and she would watch Star Trek.
Oy.
Those are the two ways.
Wow.
And so and it's one of those things where, it was her vocabulary, being fully Czech, and then the vocabulary that she built, it's better than mine. Like,
dude, Star Trek language is advanced. The dictionary is like literature.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So it's very fascinating to hear her speak about it. And honestly, it's, that's just an example, right? Another way again, right? If you're learning a language, being able to read, very basic children's books, or maybe watching a TV show with subtitles on or something, so you can better understand the inflections of how something is being said, or being able to try and, I guess tie the two together in that sense.
It's funny is that we're talking about like learning English, for example, and then we speak in English. No, but the thing is just it's quite interesting to hear because it's like there's so many videos and clips here locally made by local content creator about learning a language. But I rarely heard that about an aspect from you guys who's not here and who's native speakers. I think you're natives as well. It's interesting in a way that like even you think it's English is hard. Like then for us, it's like for me it's third language. It's not second. My second is Thai, so it's like even harder because I speak Thai first and then I learn English. So it's like my translation is just go through different layers right there, with the circling around it, and then once I sort of getting good at English, my Thai sort of like go lower. The storage is just too full, just had to replace with different like vocabularies. It's funny you remember that your mom watched Star Trek. I when I first like really forced myself to learn, I watched Lord of the Rings. Oh my god. Yeah,
medieval language.
Oh no, my god! I think that was one of. I'm glad I did because the film was good as well. And once I actually got better English, I watched it again. I'm like, oh, so I got it wrong in the first time. and then South Park. Oh yeah. The bad American influence I got, it was all from South Park. I'm like a huge fan from South Park. I binge watched the first 9 episodes. Through Christmas, like from 1 to 9 completely, and just like woof. Yeah, that was a good preparation for the US. Yeah, right. You watched too, right?
Yeah, yes. Not in recent.
Yeah, well, I mean, you watched it before.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it gives you the it gives you the political incorrectness on that side.
Yep.
Stereotypes. This kind of stuff.
But I took it the wrong way. I thought it was fact about.
Oh yeah, no, it's.
No, until I got it when I got to the US, I'm like, oh, now I got what they mean. I'm like, So for Max, you've been here for a while, right? For how long? Like 2-3 years.
2020. I arrived 2020.
3 years, but like you did go home sometime for holidays and stuff, but you mostly here.
Yeah, I normally go home like once every 9 months. Like I would at this point I'd almost consider Cambodia home, but my family is in the UK.
Yeah.
My mum's family in the UK. My dad is in Switzerland.
Where about in the UK?
Just near London.
Near London, right? I went to a language school in Oxford for like a month.
Good place to do it. Yeah.
Well, I was in jail, like almost. I mean, not allowed to go anywhere. I was under 18, but I was good. Like, really got me like understanding a lot of like English. But then I also like got like British accents.
I don't think
I was in Europe. Yeah. I was in Norway. They sent me there, and I was just like, oopsie. But I didn't know that I had it until like I watching like old videos that I had. I'm like, that's British accent. Like, oh, you're here. No,
there are some pretty bad British accents though. Like there's a lot of slang. And like even
but
a lot of Europe
though.
has.
I like it though.
Pronounces it.
It sounds quite how to say prestigious. No, I mean honestly, like the actual British slang sounds so like even though it's rude the word itself, but it just sounds very cool. Somehow, somewhat.
Just a quick comment on that. I fully agree. It's so funny because the language, like the specific words used to describe things, sounds so much more articulate than what we would say in the US. Yep. It sounds. I know. It just sounds so much smarter than what we would say.
Also, it sounds less racist too. To be honest, there's like a certain word that's almost like equally to the N word in British, but you say it doesn't sound like so itchy. But if you say the N word, it's like nope. I like when I was in the US, I didn't even know that like there was a certain language that should not be used. I mean, because I'm Asian and I didn't care, and my friend was also like quite open, so they let me say whatever I wanted until I understand like, oh, I'm not supposed to say this to other people, like only to my friends. But then it was like that's how language has an impact on you, right? Back to our story. Sorry, like language is quite long. No, it's good. It's good. It's an interesting conversation. It's like a warm up. Like I'm wondering, like why here? Like you two. Like, I mean, Dom definitely back and forth. I mean, this probably like really hard. And for Max as well, like integrated yourself into a complete new culture. I mean, of course you've been traveling around, but like Cambodia, you know, it's not like a simple country where you just drop off and say, hey, I'm here, let's just explore. It's a lot of things, especially I think from 2020 to 2023 right now, in terms of like the landscape of, I just say technology alone and the way of life is completely different. Because COVID sort of changed the whole things, right? But Cambodia took it like personally. We never have delivery service this many before COVID. Honestly, we don't. Now like everything just, I'm just gonna get my phone and order the food. So I want to hear like Max, you have to be vocal on my podcast.
So the question is like why
here? Why? And I mean in general, like your experience, like seeing Cambodian grow in the past 3 years. What's your thought about it?
Yeah. So first of all, why here? For me, it started like in my teenage years. I grew up with a lot of like international people. Like some of my really good friends were Nigerian, Chilean, like from all over, and I was able to go and visit countries at a young age. And then I would say Cambodia is the 4th time I've had to like reintroduce myself to a new culture. So America would have been like the first time, like going to America for university, and integrating there, and literally being kind of, you just have to start again. And then the second one would have been Dubai. So I was working for a company in Dubai. And then the other one was Kenya. And then as COVID hit, that company that I was working for had to like reorient a lot of their like global operations. And so my next project actually with them was going to be in Myanmar. And this company, they basically do investment research in emerging countries. So like countries that are on the way up and like are becoming more interesting from a like GDP growth investment perspective. And so then I basically just made my own way here because I was already of the opinion that my next work was going to be in Southeast Asia. I felt that was where there was the most like for the next decade, that's where there's the most like dynamism and like regional economic growth. And so I just want to be part of that because for me, the UK in comparison is like it's a very slow risk averse, like stable place. It does like they're just growing at like 1% a year. They're not really innovating, and it's also an aging economy. So you just don't have the energy levels like you'd see in like Kenya, for example. And so Cambodia, like, yeah, when I first arrived here, like I just felt that energy like straight away. And yeah, I felt as well that like there was a lot of things that weren't done yet. And so you could like, if you had a good work ethic and you really wanted to push on some things, you could do quite a lot as like a foreigner coming in and trying to add value.
Interesting.
There you go.
What about Dom?
Yeah, it's funny because I've thought about this a lot recently. I think it really does stem from having family that are originally from Europe who are immigrants, and I think ingrained in my life since the beginning, it's been a lot of growing up in more or less an international household in terms of culture and style, and encouragement to be open-minded in many different cultures. And for me, after university, I was fortunate enough as well to have 6 months off of time, and before starting my first position, and I did a backpacking trip down in South America with two of my good friends, and while down there, one of them suggested, well, why don't you have 3 more months, why don't you go to Southeast Asia, do a solo trip? And at the time, I didn't really have like the confidence or felt like having the confidence of doing something like this, but he said, just do it, just try it. And so during university, I for about 2.5 years, I'd saved a little bit of money to be able to, during doing a job there, to be able to fund a trip to go over to Southeast Asia for about 3 months. And I did a backpacking trip around there and spent some time in Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos. And I always knew I wanted to come back to the region, and this was during 2016 as well.
Ooh.
So it was quite early.
That's
quite early.
7-8 years ago.
Yeah. And so funny enough, I actually took the train from Bangkok to the border of Cambodia. And
you did the train ride?
Yes, I did the
crazy.
Train. I was did the third class train ride.
Oh yeah.
I was actually the only foreigner on there.
Only Barang on there.
Yeah, Barang, exactly. But it was such an eye-opening experience. And to Max's point, in terms of as you experience these different cultures, Cambodia was actually one of the most positive for me in terms of interaction with people, in terms of looking at opportunity and growth and things that you could see in the future. But I obviously had a position back at home in which that I was going back to. But after about 3 years, I didn't have necessarily a fulfillment of what I wanted to do. And so I had always had this draw coming back to Southeast Asia, and specifically in Cambodia. And so from there, I learned a lot about the investment space, more on the impact side, and decided, I was able to fortunately find a position, kind of take the leap, and experience and integrate myself into a culture that I really wanted to learn and become part of, and similarly, like Max, want to make an impact.
It's interesting to hear a story like how you get here, because I feel like for the local themselves, for me, I don't want to speak on behalf of others because I don't know how they feel. But like when I see you or I see my friends who from different country being here, I always wondering what I want to ask, why you chose to be here, or like what make you change your mind choosing Cambodia on behalf, on top of others' country. But of course, some of them are not going to be here permanently. I understand, but it's just that the fact that you chose to invest a portion of your lifetime spending in a country where it's not even your own birth country, and doing something about it. And for example, for you guys doing the podcast, where you give a platform to many different people from different sectors and investment, and relate to like technically like startup growth and economy relations. It's really striking to see that like others who've been here, they also are definitely playing their part as well, like in terms of what they're doing, like for like language teachers. I mean, like, no disrespect to anyone who's been here. It's just that I'm grateful that Cambodia got to be a part of their life, regardless what they've learned or how they feel about it. But for me, I feel like whatever you do here or the time that you got here, how we make you feel definitely means something to you in any way possible, right? And it's a good thing is that most people I met, they tend to have many good things to talk about the country. But I mean, Cambodia also drawn to many good stuff about ourselves too. Like, I would love to hear an expat or tourist talk good about my country. But I also want to hear like, oh, what can we do to improve? Like what do we need to work on? Like earlier, we already indirectly talked about it. Learning language, without saying that, hey, we're poor in English language, we need to learn more. No, we don't have to. We just say, hey, how to get better in English. So there's so many different style of communication, which I learned through doing podcasts actually. Like how you phrase it, how you make people feel. People will take different action upon that sentence you put into words. Like for you, I think as well that you definitely interview like many different people from different backgrounds, and I want to know, like, is it hard like interview the local?
I just wanted to like follow up as well on that last point. Like for me, like with RG Rising Giants podcast, like my entire career, like I really don't enjoy it when things are consensus. So when everyone like agrees on something, I find that like really boring.
Yeah,
because it's not challenging, right? So it's like, for example, when someone goes, why did you choose Cambodia versus like Vietnam? Because like Vietnam is the really exciting, like high growth startup, all this stuff. For me, you shouldn't choose somewhere based on like, that's already begun and you can just go and try and get involved like quickly. Like with Cambodia, it's a big challenge, right? And when we first arrived, when I first arrived, I worked for an investment company here.
Yes.
And I was trying to pitch Cambodia to a lot of people. And I just realized straight away, like the perception versus reality is completely off, right? And for most people, when they actually come here, they realize they're pleasantly surprised. I'd say like 95% of people when they come here versus what they've read versus what is here on like a business investment side of things. And they see Phnom Penh, they see the skyscrapers. They're like, what? like why wasn't I told? Like, they're like, this is like a really well kept secret almost. And it's like, so when you're involved in that, it doesn't even feel like a question anymore. It's just like,
what can you do? What can you do? Like, what can you do about it? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I agree with your point. Okay, I hate to agree to this point, but what I felt like since I was in the US, like I want to tell people about my country, but there's not that many foreign news like report on the good stuff. It's always things about what's bad about Cambodia or what's going wrong with Cambodia. And I mean, this word for it, like propaganda. There's like, I have this like inner belief that there's something going on behind the scene of the news corporations doing like the CNN, all of this big news in the world. Like I read through their report. I miss my home. Like I know my home looks like what we have. And I want to look at that. Like recently we just had the national event, right? And then we want to have that like blow out. And like I was hoping that international news outlet would just come up and do some report or doing something that's good about us. None. If something happened like negatively about Cambodia, everywhere.
Or they'll put like we were just doing a podcast the other day. Cambodia's caught the largest stingray like that they've ever found or something like. That's like completely like off.
Yeah. Right.
Like I would prefer things like, oh yeah, we have this is like, even like a lot of my friends who came to visit, like in my field, like content creators wise, I took them to like this the rotating sky bars.
Yeah, it's Celeste.
Celeste.
Yeah.
What's the name of it? What is it called? not rotating sky bar, what evolving sky bars.
Oh yeah.
The first evolving sky, I was like, the hell we have that? Seriously, I'm like, dude, like you go tell your friends, like we have a sky bar that's rotate.
Right.
And like my friend was like, no way can we have this. I told him that, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm coming back again. I'm like, just that. You know, no need to talk about, food, this is no need. But he live in Thailand, but he's not Thai, he's Singaporean. Never been to Cambodia. So my mission was like, I had to show him one thing that's going to change his mind about Cambodia. Like, what would I show him that is different between Cambodia and Thailand? Okay, of course, Angkor Wat, but too far. Okay, Phnom Penh, what I have. I took him to independent monuments. So I ran a taxi where I'm supposed to get a Grab and stuff, but I want it to be easier so we can stop places so I can show him and take his photograph for him. And I didn't have to do it, but I just feel like I am responsible to promote the country. So I forced him to go with me. It's like, where you want to go? Oh, we're going to go to a restaurant, but then you have to stop by the independent monuments. I'm going to take a picture for you. I took a picture, have him off, took a picture for him, send it to him. It's like, I like the picture a lot. I thank you. I didn't expect to have this. It's like, you just this is me like marketing my country, you know? So that's why I came to realize like, screw the international news outlet. Like, the local has to do a lot of things. People like you who came here, like, have done us a lot of favors in terms of like, you know, different scales. And like really, not just for Cambodia, I think for any country, before you believe in something that you read, you need to go there. Like, I've heard people talk about Vietnam. Oh, the traffic is bad and stuff. No, it's not. Depends on where you're going. It's like if you go to Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh, of course it's worse. It's a city. I went to Sapa and went like locally, like connected with the local. It's quite relaxing, you know. And then that's like the perspective that what you read and what you said earlier, right? Like you need to actually come to see yourself. Like for you, if you didn't listen to your friends, you wouldn't be here.
If I didn't listen and take the leap in 2016 to come to the region, I don't want to think of what my life track would be like otherwise.
Definitely. It's all about, you know, what would you do to things that you are facing right in front of you. You know, it's all that matters. For us, for example, like when you start doing your podcast, I'm pretty sure like you would have a certain plan and how you want to drive the show and how far you want to go and stuff. But then like you evolve, you know, like you met a lot of people and people are sort of like.
Well, funny enough, just to interrupt you there, like Dom called me up in November 2020 and said, let's start a podcast. We did it online until we actually didn't even meet Dom in person until
I remember that.
February,
I saw that.
Yeah. Yes. February 2022. So it was like, it was just at the time, it was during COVID, and like that was the only way you could kind of put information out there. So that was, you know, of course, during COVID, it was a very trendy time to start a podcast. But then what matters is the consistency, right? And then just like really trying to find the guests. And so many people would say to us, "Oh, you really think you can find like 50 people to interview?" It's like, well, this is a country of 16 million people, so you know, why would you think I couldn't find thousands of people?
I had people saying about my podcast that I only invite famous people. I'm like, no, I reach out so many people, but they said no because they don't have the balls to speak up. I'm not gonna blame them. I'm not blaming them either. It's just that, like you said, right? It's not that hard. You just need to keep finding. And for sure, like I started my podcast before COVID. By the way, it was a bad idea actually because I had the rhythm going on, and then boom, COVID. I'm like, I'm screwed. You know, like I was so frustrated because I don't want to do online. So many opportunities that I could have done it online. I just want to stick to actual, like, we could have done online. No, we had to meet.
Well, yeah, we only got a studio this year. So, yeah.
So that's why, like, there's a certain aspect that you have to. I mean, I've done online episode 1 only because the guy who was, I think he was, how to say, it's like working for Disney, this Raya and the Last Dragon. So he was the counselor, what we call that? Somebody who like advising the board. Shit, I forgot the word vocabularies. It's like consultant.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, he was like a history consultant. He's an archaeologist doctorate degree. You know, he's Cambodian, but he lives in the US now. So he was working for that film. So he didn't get to come, and the film released it right in the COVID. It was the film about like the birth of Cambodia. It has like a portion for that literally in the film. So I want to ask him like, is it this film about us and stuff? So he gave us like whole proof. It was quite important. So I did online, audio only. Also, I was like, my ego went to that far. I'm like, nope, no video unless I want to meet the person. There was another like hip hop artist that he was also in the US, but now he's here. And there's like also a lot of tension for me as well to do it online. I was like, no, I wait for him to come. He came. Haven't done with him yet, but I want him to be on. So why not, right? So this is the things. Like COVID does change a lot of things, but also COVID does teach me a lot of things as well in terms of like, you know, seeing things the way it is and also like taking different approach in life. And for you, for example, like, you know, if you didn't start it online, you wouldn't have a studio anyway. Right. Simple as that. Right. I might be coming from here to studio to online instead. I don't know, maybe, but I enjoy doing it real life better. It feels more flesh and blood, right?
No, it's true. And kind of going back to your point too about guests that would want that actually say that they do not want to come on. You know, podcasting is actually a pretty new thing in Cambodia too. And so there is, I would imagine there's probably some sort of, it's something that's new, that's kind of a hesitation. Maybe this experience is a little too intense for someone doing it the first time.
Yeah. I mean, they thought, I mean, some of them, they think that it is like, get in some water, please. Yeah. They think that it's kind of like a TV show interview, like where they get like tough questions or they have to answer it or they have to like, you know, prepare the script, what to say and like what they cannot be talking about. Like, come on. I'm doing so like my best and also trying really hard to simplify it for them.
I think you also just have to be able to say, you know, we'll send you back an edited version, and then they can have their say on if there's any part that they would like
it's always there. Yeah. Like if they need it, I send it. You know, I've had a couple of people who actually required me to send them the edited version. But
we do that with every single.
Oh, I don't, unless they ask. I mean, it's a mutual consent.
Yeah,
they have the right to ask it. You know, like no doubt.
Right.
Like, it's not like, oh, you have to be on and you confess everything and then whatever said has to be on. I mean, there are definitely a couple of podcasts that sort of drew in their guests as well. They had them the guests on. The guests made a couple of like mistake, like in a sentence or word, like verbally, and they just put the whole things out there without understanding that this could cause a lot of backlash for the guests. I had to personally message the host to say, hey, man, are you like, what are you trying to do? Like, you're trying to make podcasts look shit, or you're trying to make you're trying to like look good, like you're trying to just farm reach, you know? And the guy deleted the video anyway. But it's just that, you know, like I agree, it's a new form of content, but it also an easier platform for people to sort of amplify their status. Yeah, for free. Yeah, I mean, you don't need a stage no more. You don't need to go to a TV station to do like, you know, a proper interview, right?
Right.
Only like, you know, national event, probably TV, the right choice. But for this, man, I would say digital wins. Yeah, always wins.
Yeah, it's the quickest too. It's so fast. It's just boom, boom, boom. Like record, do the edit, upload, boom.
I don't even edit anymore. The AI do it for me. Yeah, I mean, like I hate AI. You guys did ask me about AI during your episode, but I have no fun of AI being replacing like a replacement for human at all. Like
no chance.
I don't believe that one bit. But I mean, like, okay, hate to say it, like you need to own AI. If you own it as it, like, you know, make it your tool. You know?
You're becoming like a cyborg, right? Where it's like you can have your Neuralink, like, you know, plug into your brain, and that can make you like be part. It's like You're no longer you're mixed together with a bit of machine and a bit of human. That's where I see it going.
It will be. I mean, I live my life like that right now. I mean, the whole house that I have here is all like at the fingertips. The door is also at the fingertips. I don't have to go down to talk to my guests if they're on. I just say, hey, come on in. I mean, Cambodia don't have this like that much. Very few houses that actually have this system. I want this to be in because first, it is safe. Second, it is easy to record your activities, and also like you feel a little bit more comfortable going back and forth. And doing so, I have to find a way to introduce it, like for podcast, for example. I'm taking no credit of bringing podcasts to Cambodia whatsoever, but what we did like as a community is that if somebody start doing it, like you need to see like, oh, what have they done, right? And what can I do to better that? Not like, oh, I want to be better than that person. I would look at it as I'm seeing this community doing this. What can I do in my own way to introduce this to my people and also make people like understand what it is? And the only way is to make sure other people are doing it too. There's a saying in Cambodia: if you're doing it alone, you're crazy.
There's a lot of startup founders that are on their own though.
Oh yeah.
One thing we noticed, like when we have a lot of guests on the show, it's unique to Cambodia in that, well, maybe it's not unique to just Cambodia, but it's unique to certain countries where you have like one founder that has an idea and the whole business orientates around them, and then if they do end up, quitting or etc., then you don't have like the 3 or 4 co-founders like you would see in a normal startup situation. And I'm not really sure why that is. I think one of the main reasons could be is there's just not that much, like, let's say there's not a critical mass of talent where you're getting a bunch of different people to be like, I will be co-founder with you and you and you. It's more of like fragmented, right?
Do you notice like when you travel around Cambodia, you would see like a noodle shop or restaurant that sell kutiu or sell coffee, and in the next door is also coffee shop. The next door is a coffee shop, right? Yeah.
That's the like copycat culture, right? That's what that's what some people call it. It's like the street where I have the first office, they call it like Coconut Street.
Yeah.
I think one person opened a coconut place, and then everyone looks across and thinks, oh, they're doing well, I got to do it. And then think.
Simply put, like, no shot to Brown or Starbucks. I'm just saying, wherever you see Brown, you see Starbucks.
Right.
Or you either see Starbucks or you will see Browns. I don't blame them, the options. People prefer Starbucks, they would drink Starbucks. People prefer Brown, they would drink Browns. But the thing is just like, I feel like right now, in terms of corporate, they are smarter now. They sort of like a community mall, for example, right? Like a plaza, a complex. Of course, you need all the brand, right? But there are certain complex that are also exclusively to a certain brand as well. Like I think mostly all the shopping mall here, they all share a lot of similar products. And like for example, Eon Sansok here, I've been there so many times. I can close my hand, walk, and navigate through all the store, and I know exactly which store selling what, because the product is the same, and there's so many similar items that not necessarily being there. Like I wish that we would have like a mall where they sell different things, and also you can get a lot of stuff. But just how things goes here, it's easier for people to choose. Oh, this looks similar, but the price is a little bit different. I would go for the cheaper one, regardless of the quality. Which is kind of bad, because in a way that related to creativity, like creative productions. Like say, for example, I do a video, or you do a project for a client, for a Cambodian, for example. They would prefer a cheaper one, regardless of the quality. First, they would be, oh, this one is cheaper, and then they will ask like, what's your quality like? If the higher up say no, then they would come back to the one that is more expensive, better quality. I met so many clients like this, but in a way that I'm in a position now that I can say no, and they will listen. But for the young creator, for the young startup, like people who in their own small businesses, is gonna face a lot of challenges for this. It's like the word quality has to mean something. That's what I'm trying to work on for the the next 5 or 10 years for Cambodia, because we know what quality is, but
Everyone,
we know.
Everyone knows what quality.
We just don't value it. That's the problem.
There's this one book that's like one of the most like impactful books for me. It's called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and it's basically all about like it's about like the mechanical world and then like the spiritual world, and it's basically saying that the one thing that unites the two is quality. So it's like whenever you meet like a human being, in general, they know what quality is.
Yeah.
You can put like if you ask them, is this better than this? And if it could be a religious thing or it could be like a motorbike, right? They know what the quality is. I think that
it's simple. It's in our blood.
Yeah.
There's a saying. My ex-boss in my old company, he taught me this triangle called fast, cheap, quality. But you need to take one out. Choose two. Fast, cheap, quality. Right? You can only choose two. Fast, cheap, no quality.
I think we try to do cheap and quality. When we try and add fast, that's when
cheap quality is not fast.
Yeah.
So it's like I've done this practice to a couple of clients that I found really hard explaining them what quality is. So I give them that triangle and had them take one off, and I deliver exactly what they pick. I mean, some of them were like quite happy with what they got, and some of them were like regretted that they chose the one that cheap and quality, it's not fast. Like literally like 3 months long. The project only took me 10 minutes. I made them wait for 3 months, just for the sake of like, screw you, tell you cheap. But I also like, I compromise myself too when I do like fast and quality and cheap. I compromise that with certain good clients that totally like let me be me, or totally just say, hey, do what you want. I can pay you first in advance. Like, what's wrong with like client right now? Like, I have a couple of projects where the client would pay me first in advance without even me doing the work yet. I'm like, we can pay you first. I'm like, why? No, we want you to get the work. They're afraid that I might back off because the offer was good. It was so good. But they didn't know. All I had to do was just sit down and talk for like 5 minutes. That's the power of brandings. Like for you too, like, when you start your podcast, I mean, the first 10 guests, definitely one of the worst experience you had, how you invited them on, or unless you only got your friends on.
We got very lucky in that we had some early believers that were able to like, I think at the time is just like being asked to come on a podcast was still like a novel thing, but I think the hardest thing for Dom and I in the first 10 episodes was actually just not being nervous and just like,
hosting it.
Yeah, just trying
to be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not alone. Every podcaster going through that. It's. I mean, if you don't have that, then you're faking it.
Yeah.
Simple, right?
Yeah, but I mean, to go on from Max's point too, though, we were really very fortunate to have some of our long-term like backers and believers who throughout this journey have been massively supportive in terms of the growth to where we started from day one to today. So shout out to everyone that's been along this journey too. And yeah, from the very beginning, we're completely independent too. So
no, that's good. Yeah, I mean, almost 100+ episodes, man. You cannot just sitting down and say, hey, let's do 100 episodes of podcast. Dude, like how many hours you put into it, and how many days, how many years, how many months that you actually have to think through. And you're not just like, I mean, I'm lucky that most guests that I invited on, I actually know them and understand what they've done. And I also like, I'm a type of person who pay attention a lot to a person that I like. So like I said to you earlier, like I don't have to do like research about you much because I've been paying attention to what you've done, and that it's make me feel comfortable enough to keep conversation going without feeling like, oh, this is awkward. I have to ask this because it sounds smarter. Like, no, that's why, right? I mean, of course, like you're lucky that you got people who understand what you're doing. For me, I feel bad for my guests because they were my guinea pigs. To be honest, like the first season that I've had, like I mean, I've had like some big guests on as well, but I think I got all of them, like not all of them, like 99% of them back already for the season 2 that I did, or season 3, to pay back the quality that I've got now, you know, because back then it was just me, like, it was me BSing pretty much about what I want to say, and it was just like completely lost.
It is so funny that you mentioned that because I mean, just for the audience perspective, everything was done online. So how we originally recorded it was literally we used the microphones on our laptops, used Zoom.
I heard.
Recorded.
He heard.
I saw.
Yeah, and so, you know, I mean, at the time we just felt like that's just we just had to get started. It was just doing it in the first place. And I think in terms of a lot of content creators too, there might be this sense of I need to get all the right equipment set up in the first place. I need to get everything done like perfect. But really, you know, for Max and I, from the very beginning, it's just doing it, just getting started. It definitely will not be perfect, but over time, you know, you will eventually make the necessary changes, whether that's to the format of in this case, if we're doing podcast content creation, the format of the creation, the format of the episode, the type of equipment that you'll be using, you know, the studio setup that eventually, you know, in our case happened. So, and in that case too, we also are actively bringing on guests that we've had previously for round 2, just out of the pure respect of what I done before.
I don't blame you. I mean, what I said earlier was also on behalf of every podcaster who've done this. I mean, I'm lucky enough that when I first started doing it, I didn't go watch other people's podcasts just because I wanted to be mine own. Like, I mean, of course, like when you think about creators, or you look into yourself as it like people who like relying on the industry, you need to come up with things that you sort of belong to that certain thing that you're doing, and people when they hear about this, it's like, oh, this guy doing this is how it looks like, right? Like that's why earlier I told you that I will make a big change on how I like my podcast, and I'm pretty sure people will notice this too, because now it's less dark, it's more bright, and it's more like positive vibe. It was all one of the biggest problem that I was trying to find, like why every time I try to say something positive, it doesn't sound positive. I mean, the way it looks, if you watch, you feel differently, but if you listen, you feel differently. And that was my biggest challenge that I never admitted. And it has to like, it hits me when I was just running around and just take a glimpse at my podcast, and I was listening to one of my episodes. Just it's kind of weird listening to your own episode, but then it was like, damn, it looks dark, man. Like the speech was so positive, but then look at it, it's like no. I'm like, nope, need to change that.
I think that's what's also unique about being. I mean, with Dom and I, of course, we are co-hosts, right? So there's two personalities, in every podcast. Whereas I think when you're just one host, it's your style is going to be obviously the only style of I guess you can change it around, but I think with Dom and I, we have an interesting there's definitely some difference in how we go about.
Why are you telling me I was on your podcast? I know. I know.
Yeah.
No, it was good.
How would you explain?
No, it was good. I mean, like the energy, like Dom is more like, you know, prepping and sort of like, you know, to the chase guys, and you are more relaxing voice. You will be more like, Dom is like the bad cop, you're like the good cop. Like no, that is. It's just like that. Like you need that type of energy, the yin and the yang,
right? Sort
of to put the guests into a position where they feel like more excited to talk, or more like, you know, considerate to spit the word out. And that's good, because for me, whenever I feel like I'm under pressure to interview or to have a special guest on, I bring a co-host in. I would have my friends as a co-host, like a couple of friends who I'm really close with came on as co-host to sort of balancing it. Or I would do it one-on-one interview with the person and just gonna go for it. Like, but every single time so far, since day one, podcasting was never a burden or never a pressure or never a responsibility for me at all. It was always thing that I was looking forward to do it.
I think when it becomes a chore, you gotta be like, we sometimes have to like stop ourselves sometimes, where it's like, if we find ourselves going through the motions, right, and it's like the next podcast, and it doesn't feel like, you always got to find that inspiration back, right? To like for us, because we go continuously. Like with yourself, you have seasons, right, where you can have breaks. For us, like we really try to keep up the week by week momentum, but sometimes we also just need a break to just like pause.
What's wrong with you two, like and I, like we are going different direction now. you gonna have season. I'm gonna stop season. I might be doing some online as well because I have a couple of friends who are like quite big abroad. I don't have the money to fly them here unless I'm like Logan Paul style. This is the crazy things. Like I have to let a lot of ego out, like of doing stuff, because now there's like a lot of tech that you can do online,
right?
With like legitimately good quality, right? And before it wasn't there.
Yeah.
But also like these AI things came in and help you also with the sound and video recording to the cloud now. And the speed of internet here right now is way faster than before as well. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna let my ego down and,
Yeah. And one more point to that too. It's, we would, I think microphone quality is actually one of the biggest things that we've found too. Audio, especially on our side, when in the early days when we were doing our Zoom form interviews, like we both ended up eventually getting a microphone, but our guests would still record, whether it was on plug-in headphones or AirPods or something like that. And it's such a vast difference between the audio quality that when you're listening back on it, you're kind of like, man, I really wish they had a Shure mic or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the I think one quality that I sort of like not proud, I would say, quite happy about is that when I first started, I prioritize that. Like I would choose between how I want people to receive the podcast. I want them to listen more than to watch it. I mean, of course, the video part, I already got it. Like, I got a lot of equipment that can do that. But then became my next concern was sounds, right? I mean, I didn't start with this PodTrack Zoom, but I started with the regular Zoom, the H4. It was bad because the noise suppression, the synchronizations, the leveling, it was hard. Like the editing wise was so difficult and it took so much time. And then COVID happens. This Zoom like magically released the podcast system. Like, take my money, dude. I paid double for it just because there's not available here, and it was a good investment because nobody had it here yet. And then luckily now everybody can buy it at a cheaper price. Lucky bitch. and I'm glad the market drive like fast, and also like there's so many different options right now as well, like form a podcast as well. Hopefully they keep doing it. And like I did I said to you that I wanna do a community like app or site to collect all the local podcasts, like Cambodian podcasts, into one place. No,
that would be cool. Yeah,
that would be.
I didn't say it yet.
I don't think so.
Oh, probably you were on a blacklist back then. No, I'm gonna do it. Like I told a couple of people. I can say this now. I mean, anyone can try doing it. It's not gonna work. If I do it, it will work because the network that I have, and also
you're the most listened to podcast in the country. So it makes sense that
that's not the case. The case is like how honest I'm willing to be doing this, and how transparent. Like I want to do this to any creators. Is that like usually corporate will come in and say, hey, we want you to be on my app. We pay you a certain amount. Nobody wants that. They want their platform to reach out as much as they can, and then they would find a way to monetize it.
Yeah.
There's so many
users to come only to that specific channel in which that your content is on.
Yeah, and you see how podcasts work, right? You can post to any form,
Yeah.
any platform you want.
No gatekeeping.
Yeah, it's like, yo, you want to go Spotify? You go Spotify. Like earlier, you asked like why it's not on Spotify. I mean, it is on, but it's not in Cambodia. So many people ask me like, why? Like, yeah, you go to Podbean, you spend $108 a month, a year. For that, that's like a 1 year service of paying the fees. But you get like all special access. You get your own site, the stats, and also like the speed of uploading and the customization. So like, I think I've used it for 2 years already. So much easier. And like some month I didn't do podcasts. All I think about is, should I lost money? Because I spend money on that. And also I spend money on Autopod, like $30 a month. So it's like $40 a month without revenue in return. So that's like the investment that I'm putting to.
Yeah. Kind of going on to the monetary side of it, and also a bit on the there's kind of like two channels, like maybe starting on the more or less like the ego side of it, like being the individual, like as a content creator. Something from the very beginning that Max and I had, that was part of why we were starting Rising Giants as well, was to essentially shine a light on all the great things that are being built in the country. And so from day one, it's never been us putting forward like our face or saying like, this is Max and Dom. If you go through any of the Instagram, if you go through any of the TikTok, anything like this, it's always about the guests. It's always about the guests.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good advice. Actually, I totally agree. It's always been the case for me too.
Yeah, and it's also different too, because right now, from our understanding, is motivational content is a very strong platform for content creators, and for that does require an individual speaking about motivational content. And for us, it's been we've recognized, obviously from being from the US and from the UK, it's not about us. We don't
want to patronize people, right? Like, it's like, I think it's important that like, the primary focus of the podcast is the stories of the founders that are here, not like, here's Max and Dom to tell you about something X and Y. Like, we're asking the questions. We're not necessarily doing like any lecturing or this is my opinion about this, you should hear about it. You should see some of these podcasts that we consider similar or competitor in the region. Sometimes it will literally just be the host's face like all the time, and you just wonder like why like they I think in those situations they let the ego win a bit. And of course, when you also name the podcast after yourself, I mean, that also doesn't necessarily help with that. Like,
true.
Like obviously the Joe Rogan Experience or Lex Fridman podcast, but like,
dude, those two deserve to name after themselves.
Sure.
They're the godfather of podcasts.
Yeah, but there is a caveat to it all, though. It's specific to what content you are creating. And for us, we're highlighting the stories of entrepreneurs, investors, and creatives in Cambodia, primarily Cambodia. Though we have done some regionally. So for us, again, it's that story. It's not for us to tell. It's for the guest to share and tell.
Definitely.
So that's more of the reason for this, I guess, idea and reason for why we do it the way that we do it. And to be quite frank, right? It's for us, it's like there's no monetary gain. Like, for example, like, we're completely independent. We haven't taken on sponsors. We haven't necessarily done anything to get any revenue coming back in. It's been all out. Yeah,
no one's ever paid to be on Rising Giants.
It's been all free. So it's really it's entirely all of our investment, with time, with everything. I mean, in last April, we did host a Startup and Innovation Festival. Which I was there. You were there, yeah. Which you were.
It's quite good. It's quite good.
Yeah, we found, public versus private sector events. There's a different kind of energy to both, and so in this private sector event that we pulled together, which primarily were a lot of prior guests that are who have made an impact in Cambodia within their respective sectors, as well as several outside investors in the region that have come. Through that event, what it showed us is that what actually we've been building, maybe unbeknownst to our own realization of it, is that people actually are listening. People do care about this continued growth and want to learn and want to continue propelling forward the startup space here.
Yeah. I remember that event when you said I got a lot of words out, and I was so happy that I got to share with my old ex-boss on the stage. It was quite funny. I mean, it's a good experience. Also, I mean, you got a lot of a good lineup. I mean, overall, it's perfect how you plan it. I mean, that's what podcast did for you. It gave you enough confidence to understand how would you deal with different personality. I mean, of course, everyone has their own ego. I mean, some have less or more. It's fine, And you could only get better while you keep practicing how you met people and deal with people, especially explaining to a guest the show gonna be on this and this and this, and also do the research on them. You understand about where they came from, what they've done, or what they're gonna do and stuff like this. I really put a lot of perspective in your head about what you want to do next in life as well. Not just regardless the podcast not making us any money, and then we can say us because hello. I mean, I did not realize how much I spend on the podcast until I actually get to make money out of doing podcasts for other company. And then I was like, whoa, that's a lot. Yeah. I could have owned a Lamborghini already with what I've done. And I'm like, nah, I would not be happy with a Lamborghini. I'm way more happy with what I've done right now, because it took years to we know this, to get yourself onto a chair, talking, go back to editing, going through all the material. There are certain episodes as well that I actually have to go through hell to get the guests on. I didn't look at it as it's a burden. It was just something that I regretted. I'm so happy that I did that. I'm happy that I had the balls to face that. And some episode I had was also quite risky. It's dip myself in the fire like this. But I know what I was doing. I mean, the intention is also for you guys. I'm pretty sure reason why you two managed to blend in well and also get yourself going until this milestone. And you told me earlier as well, I saw you did as well, you're gonna have something happening next year. Is it okay to talk about it?
Yeah, it's fine.
I mean, of course, like Dom said, it's all about the guests. The same. Even when I edit, I would go through the footage. Of course I have AI editing it for me, but I'm being quite transparent with the guests. Is that the shot on me has to have less than the guests.
Yeah.
I would talk. Maybe I talk a lot. Some episode like this as well. I would just use it, but I want people to see the interaction.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and just a quick note to that too. It's especially in our style of podcast. It is less conversational like we are having right now. It's a lot of us. It's not necessarily preemptive questions. We do share topics, but it's maybe 80 to 85% is the guest speaking, and that's because for us we felt that that it's right. Going back to what we said before, it's more of their story, what them to speak on their knowledge, to share their experiences, to share their ideas, and more for us just to learn, sitting back in the chair and actually just learning.
Yeah. I'm what I'm saying is that I'm more like a Joe Rogan guys.
Yeah.
Joe just go he would go all out at a guest face if he doesn't agree with the guest. No, but I mean I really look up to him because in a way that I mean what you guys doing, I think it's good because you actually give platform to many different personality who really need a platform to speak out. For me, for example, I would bring out people who I would say some of them really have no ball to speak up before or never get a chance to do that, and put them in the position where they have to feel so comfortable speaking up. So in order to do so, I have to let them like just talk, like
Right.
the more you talk, and then the more people forget about where they're at, and they're like, okay. And then I have a friend who like never talk about his family, and all of a sudden he just came out and was like, oh, you know what? After I got my daughter, it's just like, whoa, you never talk about your family, not in any single video. But all of a sudden, after we like, you just start talking, and people understand why I was doing a lot of conversation, because I want that person to speak up. But then when they hit like a button, boom, right? But that's also like sometimes it's hard to ask the hard question, but it's okay. It's easier to make them feel like you want to know this question, but then it's up to you. You want to answer it, right? It's like that, right?
I think for us it's also, we've got a lot of people that are trying to sell something, right? To put it like clearly, startup founders want to raise capital. They want to get new clients. And so I think it's like, I think where we've shifted it more to is trying to be a bit more, bit more inquisitive, and a little bit more drilling down into like, okay, why is your business that way? What's been going on? Like, what's the growth? Why are you doing this? It's like more of those like detailed questions about how their business operates, and like what's been the challenges.
I got that feeling from your podcast. Yeah. Like it does give a perspective on like how you operate your startup, and like from your own perspective, from your own experience, rather than say, hey, here's the bottle, just come buy it, or fund me, I need help.
Yeah.
That's also the reason that I'm doing it too. Like I bring people in who I saw the potential, and like there was a creator, like a duo creator. They never got sponsored before, and then they came on. I asked them why don't they get sponsored. They were like, oh, it's so difficult. I scolded them right in the show and say, dude, you need to eat, man. Get sponsorship, bro. And then I got them some sponsorship and get them some deal. They start to get paid a little bit, but then I don't know what's going on now. But it's just like, it was good that like some people would get mad at you, like telling them right in the face, say, hey, you need to get sponsored of these things, like scold them, in public. I mean, not really in public, but it was just like posting in public. But it was good. It was good. Like it really changed people's perspective sometimes.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference between sharing like the truth hurts sometimes. Yes. But there's a difference between how you deliver it. If you deliver it in one way that is, you really want to help the person and sharing it that way. But then there's another way where that individual can take it and felt like it's patronizing.
Yeah.
And so there's two, the way that you deliver it is also very important. aspect.
I want to ask, have you ever have guests like on your show that you sort of like have a perspective of having the guest on was good, and then while he or she is on, you found it really hard to like keep conversation going? Like you don't need to name. Of course, I don't want you to name. But
no,
like,
of course. There's definitely
that,
definitely examples of that where you expect one thing and then in the room it's a different environment. It's like sometimes when people are really like positive online and have maybe a big persona on, let's say, online, and then when you meet them in person, there actually can be a little bit the opposite of that. Like it's almost like the inverse. So that sometimes we had to deal with that. Yeah.
I feel like you two are the right person to talk to about this feeling, because I feel less pressure doing it. Like I've never had this experience like until like one time I got it, and it was so hard. Like I was panicking. Like, the first time in my entire podcast career, I was like, well, how am I gonna do this? Like what I'm gonna do? This is like, I was just like lost, and then I found my composure. I let the guys talk a little bit. Like I had no idea what they were talking about. I was just like, fine. And then I start to listen, and then I realized that I need to have this. This is a laptop, but like unless I need something, I will pull it off. It's like my backup plan. But you two, I don't need. I just put this because it's cool.
It's very cool. Yeah,
it's cool.
I like it.
Yeah, and then I'm like, oh. So now I need to prepare, because some people you do need to prepare because they're tricky. Like you said, the online person, this came on, like online person, they are a bottle. They came on, they are a glass. I'm like, no. Like, why am I doing the wrong math? Like, I'm doing the wrong like research. But it's okay. You need to meet that. You need to experience that in order to balance. Like, you cannot expect podcasts to go smoothly or easily. Like, but it's just like whenever that happens, I've learned something new. I'm like, oh, I had to prepare more. Like, I'm gonna have a guest on. Two of them. They're quite into like alien and extraterrestrial life. They weren't on before, but this time I'm gonna talk about AI. So I have to like come up with a scene with AI on them, like demonstration for them, so that will blow their mind. I want to see their reaction, and I've trained myself so long already, like almost a year now, with this AI tool where I can do a bunch of stuff. I haven't shown it in public because I want these two to like boom,
right.
And then they just that is sometime like I want that great lengths to just get one episode out, and some episode I would just like be patient enough to get the guests on, like for you too, for example, like you need to find the right time to do it together. We cannot just force, hey, let's do tomorrow. Like, no.
Yeah, but like even the last time that we were coming on, would have been a bit too rushed, and as you were hinting at earlier, we now have like some more momentum and maybe some announcements and things to share.
Go back to the announcement. Sorry to interrupt. So what's next for you? What? Or like, is it going under Rising Giant roof, or is it a different?
So no, it's different. We actually always wanted Rising Giants, like on the media side, to stay entirely separate.
Okay.
But both Dom and I, we love doing investments. This is like what we've done in our careers. Like I've done crypto and worked for crypto funds, worked for VC funds, and in Cambodia, there are only really like a handful, like 5 to 10, probably like active startup investors. And so I think during the time at which we both worked at a few of them, we realized that, we probably could do something like that ourselves one day. And especially the podcast has really helped like build the network and understand like who some of these really cool backable startup founders are. So yeah, long story short, we just set up a investment holding company in Singapore that will be able to make investments into Cambodian startups and also support them like along the way to like scale and basically take their business. Probably actually if they want to go regional, they'll actually need to register their business in Singapore. So we're doing it's me and Dom, and then we have 2 other partners, and it's called Satori Giants.
Satori.
Yeah, Satori Giants. So we've still got the Giants, but like Satori is our other partner, Riz, who's built a brand called Satori Effect. So we felt that was the right name, and Satori means awareness.
Is that it's like a Japanese language?
Yeah, in Japan. But it means awareness in like Zen Buddhism. So anyway, that's like long story short, that's what we're going to be doing, and we just hope to be part of like some of the journeys of maybe even some of the people that we've interviewed, right? So just
because you already built a list of network that you got. Actually, quite good. Actually, you just take another leap.
Well, we take
it's not a leap. This one is more a well-prepared plan, actually. I would say it's starting a company is not a leap of faith, to be honest. No, man.
But actually it happened. So that's what's so interesting is like what's interesting about podcasting in the startup space is that there are a few brands that they start with a podcast and then they realize that they have all this like information and understanding, and then people will come to them and say, actually, you're kind of already doing what a VC kind of does, right? Like you're kind of like already, you're kind of understanding what's going on. And so maybe you have a perspective on who you might like to invest in. So the 2 that we really get, actually the main one that we get inspiration from is called Bankless. So any of you have heard of them? They're like the number 1 crypto podcast globally. Actually, they recently just
heard.
Yeah, they recently went through some drama. It's two co-hosts.
Heard.
Yeah. And anyway, they've done 400 episodes, and just this year they launched this thing called Bankless Ventures, and they're investing as well. So I think in Southeast Asia though there aren't that many yet that have done that.
I think we might be actually the first.
That's good.
Like I mean, to our knowledge, if not first.
I've secretly cooking a headset as well. It's supposed to come out last month, but the company's delayed. Actually, it's like a headset that brand under after my podcast. It's a headset podcast. Podcast headset. It's good for listening for long haul.
Cool.
I was meant to only focus on my own podcast for like, customization and stuff. But that the company said, hey, we want to partner with you so you can sell it. You can get percentage out of it. I'm like, why not? Yeah, just name my podcast. Technically, it's the brand cooperate with the podcast. And the mic, the headset when it arrives will give you guys one each.
Oh.
It's quite premium, by the way. It looks good. Like, I would not expect it to have like a brand come to me and say, "Hey, we want you to we want to collaborate and have your podcast logo on our headset." I'm like, in Singapore too. Oh. That's why I was like, "Wait, whoa, what happened? Are you gonna move to Singapore, or like, do you guys have two, or you just work from here?"
No, I think so. Singapore is just from a.
It's like where it is, right?
Yeah, it's best practice from like a registration perspective.
I've a company. Some company also like that. Oh, we're based in Singapore, but literally here.
But we are looking at backing founders in Cambodia, Thailand, and Singapore. But mostly Cambodia and Thailand.
But like, honest opinion about what you've seen so far in Cambodia in terms of like startups. Do you think we have too many? Or do you think we should be more focused on a certain like aspect that they're doing? I mean, like definitely I know a couple of friends who have done it for a long time. Some of them, to be honest, like I have no disrespect to you, but I'm just saying the truth. Some of them got like too overly promoted onto like big stage and done nothing. This is the ugly truth about startup, okay? And some of them like done really good job and they never get a chance. But you guys, you two actually, I saw a couple of guesses that on like really truly deserve the spotlight. Never got a chance to do it. I mean, the spotlight they got from you is already good, but I would be more happy to see them get the support that they needed to kick off their business, right? I mean, I was a part of Small World when they first started with the T. Co-founder. I came back because of Small World. I mean, without Small World, I wouldn't be here because I saw the wheel.
Yeah, I think like our motto is like we're trying to realize radical founders, and I think Ritti is someone that like definitely exemplifies that. And I think to me that's really what you're looking for. Is you're looking for these people that have this. So quote recently from a book I've read, like having a maniacal sense of urgency. So like kind of being a bit of a maniac, and there's actually nothing wrong with that in the startup space, because you are going up against a lot of big challenges, and even in Cambodia, way more challenges for a startup than let's say an average startup in Vietnam or Indonesia that have a lot of funding, have a lot of human capital, have a bigger market to address. Like so yeah, we're really trying to find those kind of more radical characters that aren't like hobbypreneurs, right? There's a lot of
I love the word.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's coined by our friend Tommy, but yeah, there's a lot of hobbypreneurs around, and like this business didn't quite work out. We just start another one, change the name, like that. That's the issue we see. And so if we identify someone that just really doesn't seem like fully committed, because you really have to be all in if you want to build anything substantial.
Yeah, I mean, wow, hobbypreneurs.
Yeah, so I mean, just to add, like, just one additional point to that, it's a lot to the hobbypreneur.
Hobby entrepreneurs.
Yes. It's you open a business, it's successful. You actually start generating decent revenue, and then after 2 years, you want to register the company, and then unfortunately, there's a tax bill that comes your way, and that ultimately eats into your ability to run the business, and then you close down, you start a new one, and it's kind of this circular reference of something that's been seen. And so, as Max had mentioned too, it's finding the right entrepreneurs in the beginning that are early on in this journey, and having and establishing the right like governance and right setup from the very beginning to avoid situations where this continues.
Yeah, that's true. And like honestly, really thankful for you to raise the word hobbypreneurs. I mean, it's not a problem. It's just things that happening in every sector here that I've noticed, even in like content creation field. Like I don't know why like content creator now replacing vlogger, replacing YouTuber, replacing like people who make video and stuff. They just simplify the whole industry by using that. I mean, like you also a content creator. You make podcasts, right? It's just too broad to narrow it down. Who's doing what exactly? You know, like I would not go out. I'm trying to represent myself as a vlogger. Like I make content daily or weekly at least. Doesn't matter what it is, but I do have a story to tell. The vlog is not me voice-overing my activity. It is me sharing my experience in that moment, that time, that exact place. Not about me filming the footage and go back home and then try to remember how I feel and explain it to the people. That's not vlog. The vlog is like, you know, the content you watch, like Casey Neistat, for example. So many other, like even Logan Paul, for example, like some of the video is like controversy, but he actually experiencing it there, you know, it caused things that
like
matter.
Mr. Beast, for example.
Yes.
Someone like him who's literally in the moment.
I don't see Mr. Beast doing voiceover. Come on.
No.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah, and this thing is taking over Cambodian social media, you know. I mean, because of the birth of TikTok and short form content, I understand, but the thing is, like one issue, I would say one struggle that we are facing right now is we easily forget what's good or what works. Whenever we got new thing, we tend to prioritize new thing first, and then we sometimes realize that this is not great. We should have had the old things back, but then it's too late because people stop doing the old things already. We don't have the resource to do it anymore, or people are not motivated to do it anymore, or the sponsor brand no longer really interested in doing that because it's not sales. This is the problem like that I'm facing, like you said earlier, like the hobbypreneurs. That's the one who ruined the industry, ruined the landscape of startup.
Right. Yeah.
They were just doing a lot of stuff, right?
Right. I would say, yeah, I think that's the issue is, and I think there's a reason for it. Like it's not been very financially successful yet for people to be startup founders, right? You can't really think of like a person that's got filthy rich, right? From being like a startup founder. Whereas in the US that does happen, right? So, but I think what we've tried to identify, and this book we once did a podcast on, the other thing that they came up with was that the best startups you'll ever see are less extreme versions of cults. So when you think of what a cult's like, it's like, you know, it's a pretty, you know, crazy group of people, but that's kind of what the best startups are. That's the only way you're gonna make that impact over the long term. And I think there are a few companies in Cambodia that have the makings of that. I would say something like Sabai, right? You know Sabai well.
I was there.
Group in, right? They're a real like squad when you meet them. They're really into what they're doing. And of course, like Small World, for example, would be another kind of, you know, and you really feel their energy, right? It's not like, oh, I'm just starting this thing and maybe it'll work out, might get some funding. Maybe I'll just, you know, go sell, you know, whatever, or like go get involved in the real estate industry or something like that. But yeah, I think that back to your question earlier, is like, are there too many startups in Cambodia? I think in some sectors there are. I would say like fintech and e-commerce. So like the e-commerce being, you know, Q-commerce or like the online sites. Like you don't probably need another food delivery app in Cambodia. And then with fintech, there's a lot of like payment companies that are actually no longer really necessary because you've got things like Bakong, which have highly innovated that sector. So yeah, there's room for consolidation and some to fade away and others to take higher market share.
True. Now you make me think. Wow. Yeah, food delivery is way too many, and they're all shit right now because there's a competition. It just I I have no like fear saying this because they're like, we used to have like an e-commerce site back in the day where you want to buy stuff, you can just go on and then you like confidently believe in the product you see. Now you don't. You lose all the trust. You get scammed too. And they even like, like I really wish that Cambodia would have a website that's like Amazon or eBay, at least one, or Lazada, for example, that or Taobao, whatever, like we've used. Like locally, guys. Like freaking do one. Just one site that unites everything. Nobody done it. They always come like this guy who say, oh, we got this guy who's selling from import stuff from China. No, I want the local products. I want the products that I want to buy here without digging into like the small alley or, like this road that I don't know where it is. It cannot even exist cannot find it on Google Map. The OG products that usually you can buy in front of your house. If you have that, I feel like it would work. But maybe people who hobbypreneurs who have this idea and then have no balls to do it. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure rich people do have the feeling, like understanding of what they can do to make it work. Or maybe they think that it's not accessories. Like I said earlier about the collecting all the platform podcasts to put into one place. Because I can hear people complaining about, I want to listen to other people's podcasts too. I don't know where they're at. See, you see the problem.
Right.
The solution is
it's actually funny that you mentioned that because on our TikTok channel, we have gotten consistently comments of where can we listen to where can we watch your podcast?
Yeah, the whole thing.
And the link to it is literally on the profile website.
Right.
But
it's like right there.
It's right there. But maybe there is this, but to your point, there is necessary for an aggregate location for everything so that people understand this is the place I can go to if I want to listen to, A, B, C, D, E podcasts.
Yes. There are also like app from corporation that they do put stuff like this on too. But like I said, it won't work because then it looks like they own it. It has to come from the community themselves. And maybe we can find a way to monetize the podcast. To give people the incentive that they deserve. Like for me, for example, I don't need to make $1,000 or $10,000 an episode. I just need it to pay itself off. The least. Pay the freaking Podbeans off. $109 a year. And the other part that I pay monthly, even though I don't release podcasts, I have to pay either way. Because it's a subscriptions. So it is also good for me too because when I don't make podcasts, I feel like, I lose money, so I have to make podcasts. But then, you spend more time. You also have to put a lot more energy doing it, all these kinds of things. See? It's always the investment that you put into would go somewhere, right? Back to our point, regardless about having a certain idea and be able to execute it here, I feel like Cambodians now are braver than before. In terms of I've seen people lose money as well by doing wrong business. But some people also manage to sustain for a long time because they're smart enough to find a way to do it. But I really hope that we would dare to do something else differently from what we usually doing.
I would say, the other thing to mention from our side is we started in Cambodia, the podcast, and we that's still our focus is primarily talking to founders here. But I think one thing that another challenge that we want to take on is maybe we look in the region at the entrepreneurship startup podcasts, and there aren't actually that many that have done it in multiple countries. And so for us, our next step, at least on the podcast side, is to start interviewing a lot more Thai founders.
That's good.
And there's very few people. There's very few good, I'd say English language podcasts that are covering Thai founders. So that's also we're excited to learn more from them.
Yeah, that's why I respect you guys because I honestly feel like the only way to get Cambodia out there is to do proper communications. And that has to do through language. It circle back to our first conversation in the podcast. Say I have intention. It is very important to get the word out. Like you said, when what you heard about Cambodia, what you read about Cambodia is not exactly how it is. It has to be done through language. It has to be done through proper way of communications, the medium that you're using, and also the visual that you are showing to the people. Because I've watched a lot of YouTube video about Cambodia. I want to see like what people have to say about. Usually the good stuff doesn't really get much view. It always end up with the local one who actually view it. Honestly, I have no hate against that. I have nothing against that. Like, of course, we need to be proud of what we have done, what they said about us. But if you want other people to understand about us, we need to find a way to put the word out there. You know, I would prefer the video to have only 1,000 views by foreigners than 1 million views by the local while they're talking about stuff about the local. Because it's important for people out there to understand, to see what's going on, for them to make a decision to come. And then who knows, they're gonna invest, or they're gonna, like you, for example, for you too, you bring a lot of you spend money here, you know, you have the economy already. So that's how like the people like better themselves from day to days, right? And I always found it really hard for me to put into Khmer words to explain to the people here that we need to stop watching, not watching, but we need to stop overreacting toward tourists who come to Cambodia and talk about us. If they talk about us good way, okay, smile. And maybe share it toward a certain direction that you just have more, like, you know, prepared, a concrete direction where you want to share it to. Not just like, you know, you put closed door into your house and the word doesn't get out and say more things, right? So that's why I feel like we need to do maybe rewarm or recalculate the way we do things. And also inspired me as well, you to considering doing a thing in English. I've had this thought 5 years ago, but I just have no motivation to do it because I don't find the reason to do it yet. Now I do. After I heard you say it.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I think with Thailand, like specifically, the reason we also wanted to do that is like we wanted to pick the country. We were also deciding between Thailand and Myanmar, and we wanted to pick the country where we felt there would then be the most overlap. Like when we see like Cambodia today, I would say there's more overlap with Thailand than maybe any other country in the region. That would be my hunch, at least, from all the conversations we've had. Of course, Singapore as well, but you know, Singapore's 70,000 GDP per capita. They're fine. Like they don't need help. But
they do good.
Yeah, Thailand. There's a different, interesting new like wave of momentum happening there, and like at least in the startup space, where they went through like a first wave that didn't quite work out that well. But Myanmar is the one that's like even more. I mean, that would be a really big leap for us because we're all aware of like that situation there, and there are some really interesting startup founders that have managed to get through that the craziness in the country that's been going on for the last 4 or 5 years. Used to be one of the most exciting like countries in the region to be investing and doing startups, and now that's changed drastically. But we will also be having a few, and like next year, some Burmese founders come and join. Right?
Go international, expanding. It's good. The normal is boring, man. There should be a title. Normal is boring.
Right.
Of the podcast. I mean, like, you're doing the same thing every day, like all the time. You would lose interest in doing it either way. Like people would ask me about doing podcasts in different languages and like how I want to do it. I really don't really care. Like as long as I enjoy doing it and it's not really a burden to me, or I'm not losing anything, it's fine. Just go for it. And for you too, I'm pretty sure that you're gonna do great in Thailand, because I Thailand podcasts actually quite good as well. They do, like, I listen to some as well in Thai. Quite good quality. I mean, this is how I sort of like get inspired by doing certain things. Not just to, oh, I see you doing that, I'm going to do this too. No, I'm just going to look at the setup and say, oh, how do we get that light? Or how do they set up this? And like for this, for example, I learned it from my guests. Some guests, they don't like doing this. Like for you two, right? You lean back. So you need to have an arm. So, hey, close to the mic, fine. I put the mic close to you. Right? That's the solution. You cannot force the guest to say, hey, you have to sit like this all the time. For 2 hours, man. You get like back age. Just like this. No, but later on, maybe like going on a boat or something, like having a glass of champagne. And no, I'm planning to go wilder.
Yeah.
Like I do imagine doing like in a limousine, in a Rolls Royce. No, I do. Like in the future, if I have this access, I will do it. Like I would do podcasts in Rolls Royce. If any car company want to sponsor, I would take for that Rolls Royce. It would be cool, right? Like,
that would be very cool.
Even a Rolls Royce for 2 hours, go to a province and then eat a meal and come back and do the podcast. This is what I'm trying to say earlier to hobbypreneurs.
I think that's going to be the hashtag of the...
Dude, maybe I put that title instead of, hobbypreneurs. And then copyright sign, Max. Yo, man, you gotta own this, man. Yeah, I mean, like, that's what I said earlier. Just try to do something different than what I've done before. It's good for the country as well. I mean, the younger generation probably see something new and also learn something differently. That's why it is good to hear that you guys noticed this. I've noticed this, but I have no right to say it because I'm not in the field.
But what will be really interesting about that is like when we have, so for example, like there's this, there are a lot of startup founders in Thailand that just raised loads of capital and, a lot more than, let's say, the average raise here. But what could be interesting for them is like they're then getting interviewed by a podcast that has its roots here in Cambodia and done like 100 episodes. And then that creates this kind of like network effect.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing that happened. We had our Startup Innovation Festival and we invited this guy called Jeremy Au who runs Brave Southeast Asia Tech podcast. And I would say we kind of selected him because we knew that he had this big network and he's one of the top podcasts in Singapore for startups and tech. And so him coming to Cambodia, seeing everything, and then he interviewed a few of the startup founders and done some reflections and basically said, I was expecting X and it turned out to be way better and it was Y. And so, yeah, that's what we're also interested in is like that effect that happens when you like get these international people like, oh, okay, there's all this stuff going on in Cambodia I had no idea about. So, and then they maybe even say, I'm gonna put an office here. I'm gonna do this, and yeah, it just creates interesting effect.
You never know, man. As long as you keep doing it,
consistency.
Yeah, consistency. You just have to keep going at it.
Yeah. It's there. I'm gonna butcher this, but maybe we'll share it later on the Telegram channel. But funny enough, on LinkedIn, there was someone had made a post, and basically it's about your first 150 episodes of a podcast, and it's like the first 50 is just kind of trying to figure it out. Like the second 50 is trying to actually like form your format and content and what you're trying to do. And then your next 50 episodes are, about building your audience. And so and when you think about it, right, in total, how many episodes have you done?
Like 55, 56.
55, 56?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, you were talking about mentioning, wanting to do now, like, for example, like a interview in Rolls Royce and things like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes you think like so early on in the journey of this like consistent journey that you're going to be on for the next, however long, right? For us doing about 110 episodes, there's still so much room for iteration and things that are going to be growing and changing. And that's what's really exciting about being a content creator too. Like you have the freedom to be able to, do what you want, be able to present what you want, be able to talk about, for in most cases, what you want, without in your own style. And
imagine that being like Joe Rogan, who's done 2,000
episodes,
like,
right?
I just can't even fathom that.
That's almost like
15 years. Yeah, but I think
Insane.
maybe 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. No, but if you do it every day, it's like 8 years.
Yeah, 50. Most people only do 50 to 100 a year, right? Maximum.
Yeah, he's doing almost every day.
Yeah. But it is crazy because because we've been running for literally 3 years now,
right?
And so you've seen, and this goes back to your point about there with new podcasts or content creators or however within the content creative space, whoever, if someone new comes, it shouldn't be viewed as a competitor, right? It's you're building the space.
Yeah.
And over time, Max and I, we've seen whether it's corporates or individuals who have started podcasts but only have done a few episodes, and then it's kind of fizzled away, and it's this up and down cycle. And so for us, remaining consistent has been the thing that we've aimed to do. And we get excited when we actually do see more podcasts that come into the space, if it's similar like content too. Like that's great. That's further validation that people are recognizing and wanting to grow and kind of put on display what's going on in the country.
Yeah.
And so
totally. Well put, man.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely there are like also some other people who have done it like quite well as well, and then all of a sudden they stop because probably the intention of doing it was different, and like financially it was really hard for them to keep it going, or they no longer enjoy doing it. That is fine, but it's just like what make people different from each other is that how much can you do, or what more can you be like can be done. I always look at it that way. I do not care if people copy or do whatever. Like I would not say copy, but like do similar things. It's just like I'm flattered. Simple.
It's never going to be that similar because like no one is you, right?
Yeah,
like,
I'm flattered. Like if they're imitating me, cool. I have people who like go into a shop and say, "Hey, I want this whole set." Now follow me. I got new set too.
Yeah.
No, the reason why I changed the set, I don't want to look the same. Honestly speaking, it's not because Sennheiser gave me all of this. It's not the biggest reason I want to change because I want to look different. I do not want to look the same. I don't want to look like somebody else's podcast. Because the one that I had before already had the same. Like people had the same setup, everything. Okay, fine. I'm upgrading. And then I'm playing the upgrading game. You want to go? You want to chase? Go. But the thing is, I'm lucky enough to have this type of support from brands that, I'm pretty sure you too, once you advance to the next step, because it's really easy, like for me, if in my field, to propose to a brand that if I need something, I can just go talk. For you as well, like for investment, for funding, all of these things, you know what you're doing, and you know the backbone of the formula. And then that's how podcasts can impact your life. Like it teaches you to do certain things without worrying about, hey, is this gonna work? I just know it's gonna work. But patience is the key. This took me like 3 months to get it because shipping back and forth, and also the shipment delay and all of these new forms of taxes they have to do. Oh, but I got it.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things that I'm just thinking back on the Startup Innovation Festival, and one of the questions that you had received from an audience member was actually about the monetization piece of becoming a content creator.
Yeah, I remember that. They thought that we were making a lot of money from YouTube and Facebook.
Right.
It's false.
Yeah.
It's not true.
Yeah. And I think and maybe specific to the creator economy in Cambodia, for those that want to enter into the space, there, and honestly anywhere, anywhere in the world actually, there has to be a realization of, there are key aspects to, you have to build a brand. You can't just expect to walk in and have everything come to you. You've been, your brand, it's been 10 years now, right?
Almost 10 years.
Yes. So in 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
9 years. Almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years. Yeah. And so when geez, a decade, right? That's so long. And to build this brand consistently and to get to where you are today, right? It's, a lot of people sometimes see the journey and say, look at the end product and say, oh, they have it easy.
They got lucky.
But
my ass lucky. Freaking hell.
But
the harder I work, the luckier I seem to get.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Exactly.
That's true. I agree.
Yeah. It's very exactly. And so it's one of those things for maybe specifically here, it's like if you are going into the content creator space, you have to recognize it takes a lot of time, a lot of consistency, a lot of effort. And, to see that monetary return that you expect to get, it takes time. If you're going into the space for that reason too.
Yeah, definitely. That's so true about Max said about lucky.
Yeah.
No, but it's true, man. Like sometimes I feel like I'm quite lucky to get what I wanted, but then, damn, thank you for reminding me. Almost 10 years. I never thought about it. Not even a single day I asked myself or reminding myself that, hey, I've been doing this for this long, or considering that when I'm gonna stop. Like I politely ask people to stop asking me about when I'm gonna stop doing it. Don't. It's like eating. You don't go ask people about when you're gonna stop eating your dinner.
Yeah.
What are you gonna eat? Like you're gonna stop eating, or you're gonna stop breathing, or right? These things like like intrinsically you should not ask this. So I politely ask people like, please don't ask me about when I'm gonna stop. It's not in the formula. It's like what else would I do without this? Yeah. This is me. Like I never ask myself. I just know in my head that every single day I can wake up and smile doing these things.
I mean, a key point from the podcast that we had together. I mean, you literally sold your bike.
I did.
To purchase the equipment.
I just did another selling.
Yeah.
To get what I wanted to. I sold a set of Fujifilm I bought about $10,000 just to get a Leica that cost $1,000. And I lost about $4,000 when I sold that.
Yeah.
Without even flinching.
Right.
Because I wanted that.
Right.
And that was the that's how I never realized that when you asked me the question and then the way I answer it, like how I felt, like truly felt about when I sold the bike. When I tried to remember it, it actually was quite painful.
Yeah.
The feeling of losing a lot of money. I think I spent like almost $4,000 in terms of the bike and the interest that I paid for, because it was a down payment. It was my salary as a buy that I got that bike. And that video also got viewed a lot of people. A lot of people view that video too. And the cool part is the person who bought the bike, still friend with him. They see these things, right? The good thing you raised this up. For podcasts, like people have story they can share. I respect that. But some story, you need validations. Always. Like you can say a lot of things you wanted. People would say, oh, interesting to listen to. Oh, sounds nice. Very good experience. How would you validate that story? This is the thing that I always cautious about in my podcast. When I hear someone say about a thing or two that they went through, I'm like, is it true? Let me go dig it out. And then, but that's why I say you need to pay attention to the person enough to understand that what is the most comfortable question you can ask them, or what is the most comfortable answer they can provide back to you. That's what I said earlier when I have a guest that I had no idea what I want to do, because that was off. Like what he said was off. I'm like, I can prove you wrong because I got this evidence against you, but I don't want to ruin your image, so I'm just gonna let you be you, and then indirectly cut out that part without him knowing it. But he knew that I cut it off. But I mean, I saved his ass. Yeah. Technically. But that's the problem. Like sometimes you face that.
Yeah.
You need to play cool and just yeah. Right? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I was just gonna say it's kind of funny, and Max, feel free to.
I can see the smile from Max.
Well, when we relate it to Rising Giants, we probably spend about 10 hours with a person, front to back.
Yeah.
And during that time, you get to understand the individual, not only from a professional aspect, but when you bring them onto the podcast, it's more of an open discussion. And so you can, like you said, there's ways that you kind of figure out more of a validation behind things that are, maybe said or questions that are asked to, further validate maybe specific points.
Yeah. It's the things that I actually in my language when I do Khmer, I always tell people that I cannot control what guests gonna say or answer or share, but they will be responsible for what they said themselves. Unless I'm being told that I should take it off. If they didn't say anything, then it's on there. It's on there. So you need to face the consequences yourself. I mean, the art of story sharing is quite important. But you sharing, as long as you're sharing what happens. But you sharing fabricated story, then it's gonna come back and bite you. Quite simple as that, right? And that is the podcaster dilemma that you have to face. I mean, for sure, you have done 100 episodes already. For sure, you would came across a couple. I also came across a couple as well, but I've learned how to deal with that.
Well, I think for us, some of the ramifications of that can be like quite substantial, right? Because it's when you're talking to like a startup founder, and they're telling you a very glossy story about what's happened, right? And like they're saying about all the momentum that they have, and then you kind of do your own research a bit, and you see maybe that's not quite accurate. I think then the issue that we can have is that people will ask us down the line, like, oh, why did you have that person on? That startup has now failed, right? For example, or like that startup maybe was, could have had like bad management, or like, could be accused of things down the line. And so like, I think it's up to us to try and spot those red flags like early on. And to be honest, most of those red flags, and I will say this like pretty clearly, come from the foreign founders here. So like the expat founders.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I'd say that generally like all the Khmer founders that we have on are very like genuine, very honest about what's going on in their business, and they won't try and like, basically create a story that's like way over the top than what reality is. So yeah, no, it's definitely something we have to deal with. But I mean, we're in the startup game, right? And 9 out of 10 fail, right? So,
for sure.
And that's the thing. Going back to you spend X amount of hours with this with someone, right? So to the extent in which you can, you either spot red flags or things like that come up, right? It's it may be even after the fact, once you've done an episode and dealing, like Max said, with ramifications of it. It's been in this space long enough to understand, like, not everything is going to be perfect. It's just about, how you continue with representing the brand, how you represent, basically continuing on the track of what Rising Giants is trying to ultimately accomplish. Not everything is going to be 100% perfect.
Yeah. And some of the founders that we have on that will say like, oh, well, this is my third business. The last two failed. And then they're upfront about why they failed. That's actually way more exciting, even from like an investment perspective, for someone that's like, failed a lot.
I would want to listen to that too. I mean, that's like a good footprint of not repeating the same mistakes. Right? Right. I always urge the guests to share that. Like, I appreciate you to share that, like who you've been through and what happens with the, like, I mean, no disrespect to the expat guests or whatsoever. It's just what came to my mind after you said that. It's like, for them, there's nothing to lose when things goes wrong, because they can always go back.
Hop on a plane, yeah.
And an interesting point you brought up a lot earlier was there's been this recent kind of like the recent shift of like dynamism. That's the right way of word. Dynamics. I'm I'm not good at pronouncing words, but in
American.
Yeah. Exactly right. I need Max to pronounce the big words for me. But there are, in recent past years, right, there's been this push of entrepreneurship, and from what we've understood more from like a traditional aspect, it's been less of taking a step towards this, like taking the leap at an early age for entrepreneurship, because it has a lot of risk and unknown that may not be, viewed as a good option for a recent grad or a young individual early in their 20s to try and go for. It's the not safe route to do versus
and so some people just aren't cut out for it. I mean, it takes a certain level of like intensity and just showing up every day and being all in. A lot of people would rather just have a boss, right?
True.
Yeah.
I have difficulty of choosing a staff that not choosing a staff, like looking for someone to work with me all the time, full time, hopefully, or like be a part. Honestly, like I just talked to my wife yesterday as well. Like I rarely talk to her about my own struggle with work because I don't want her to stress out. But she was quite interesting that how she explained to me is that I'm really attached to people who work with me, not for me. I don't really look at people who work with me as like my staff. I would count them as family. Dominic Torero.
live your life a quarter mile at a time, right?
Oh God. Oh man. But it's true, It is how I want to treat people, and also how I want to be treated. I want people to treat me as a family when they're friends. So when you got someone who work with you or for you in the team, you really want them to see what you see, like the vision and the future of how you want to evolve. It's so hard to find people like who have this belief that you can get better, you can grow bigger, or you can struggle for like the first 5 years, for example, and then the next like 10, 20 years of your life, you can enjoy, you can travel around the world for free. I'm almost 40, man. I won't have like another maybe 60 years to enjoy life, but they have another 70, 80 years.
Right.
They're in their 20, they can do a lot of things, they can make many mistakes. They don't understand this. And I'm like, why is it so hard now?
Yeah, just as like a personal anecdote, actually. So as I had mentioned earlier at the beginning about... So I was working for one of the large banks in the U.S. at the time for about 3 years, and the role that I had taken to come to Cambodia was actually it was basically an internship role. So it was going from a salaried position to basically getting paid $200 USD a month.
Oh,
yeah, and so this was in 2019, beginning of 2019, basically. So that's when I arrived to Cambodia. And so
you've got to really, really believe in it if you're
from I think there's a lot of details that are overlooked, especially in this, because obviously don't share it that much, but literally left what this career path that you're talking about early on to say, I'm going to take a risk for whatever reason it is, a character development. It's my passion to want to work in this space in this country. And sometimes it's when people ask like why, it's very hard to explain, because sometimes you just innately feel this, like it's just a feeling. It's just like, this feels like the right thing to do, and this feels right for who I am as a person at this time. And so that's kind of like, I guess, the journey of getting here. And when you mentioned this whole when you mentioned about like you're in your 20s and you can take the leap of faith to not make money for the first 5-6 years, whatever it is, for this commitment, right?
Yeah, I think there's a big stereotype here that the foreigners that come here like are on crazy good salaries, right? Like there's actually quite a lot that like come here and are willing to like take...
Speak up, Max, speak up. Speak up, come on. Give me some more.
Like take a pretty like, low... Like basically take kind of your expenses as to begin. Like my first salary basically just paid my expenses, like $500 to $1,000 a month. But I know that would be more than the average.
Your first salary here?
It was just about $1,000 a month. Yeah.
Way less than mine. My first salary when I was back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what they normally start you on, because it's like, even as a foreigner, like you've got to prove yourself. And then of course after that, then you start to create momentum and you negotiate. But yeah, I mean, from Dom's side, like, I mean,
it wasn't even enough to...
I couldn't fathom that.
It wasn't even enough to... And I mean, at the time I lived in, TTP Classic, but it was for me, it was the cheapest place. And funny enough, my flat cost was $250 USD a month just for the flat.
That was it.
And I was getting 200 a month. So I had for the 3 years I had savings, thankfully. And that's basically what I was doing was living always in the red, more or less.
You were in decline.
Yeah.
You're in the economically in decline.
But it's funny because eventually after about 9-10 months had moved over to a role, which even then I was only getting paid, like frankly speaking, $1,500. So that was the next role after about 9 months of working in this role. And when I look back and being present in this moment as we're having this discussion and think about was missing out on what would be this salary that you could have gotten if you stayed at home and did this in the US, blah blah blah. It's like I would never trade it in the world, because that experience would never put us at this table.
Yeah, I mean, we would not met, and we would have
exactly.
We would have do our own things.
And it's personally, and I'm sure Max is probably a similar look too. It's also like for me, I find a lot of energy and speaking with so many like very interesting people. It's like this is what really makes all the time everything like worth it. And yeah,
appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
like podcast does this to people. It really shape up your perspective and your mindset about certain life aspects, and also like it really teaches you how to pay attention to people more.
Yeah,
and learn how to let go about certain things that happens. I became way more mature after I done podcasts and get really connected to my friends after have like really deep talk or deep conversation, and became friends with a couple of people who I didn't expect to be friends with. But actually I became friends with every guest on my podcast because I really appreciate the fact that they open up their story. Like genuinely believe that. Like I think even the guy who I was really not comfortable with was also sharing stuff that I really didn't expect him to share as well, which means that he let me into his own, secret, and that means a lot. Like I'm pretty sure you two also understand this too. Like, of course you do startup, you do all of this investment things, business related, but still people have their personal story to share, right? And that personal story form or characterize their business, their startup as well.
Right. I actually think, you can say, like investment stuff and all that, but for the early stage, founders that you work with, the business doesn't really matter. It's them as a person.
Yeah.
And if you, that's what's unique about a podcast. You can really get to know the core of that person. And then you can, I mean, that will give you a good indication over the long term on if there's someone you'd want to work with.
Yeah.
Sitting across, in a room with someone for at least an hour, like listening to their story definitely tells you a lot more than, let's say, like a 1 hour business call, right?
True.
Yeah.
There's this guy, Quentin Tarantino, the film director. He said, I think he said it a couple of times already. The best film school is to try to do your own film without any budget. That's what he said. That's crazy, right? Like imagine you do something without budget, you would find a way to do it. Like, yeah.
I mean, that's a thing too with startups or wanting to start anything yourself. Sometimes people focus too much on the formula, and it's really just doing it, like going out and doing it. Quite frankly, it can be just, even if it's complete shit what you're trying to do at the beginning, it's like, it's okay, who cares, right? The more that you fail fast, it's failing fast and failing often, because in those early stages of the first 3 months that you go through that process, you learn so much more than what you would from reading a book and, something, not going through this experience. And kind of goes back to the point of if you have people that join you early on like a creative journey that is, outside of like the corporate, typical journey, right? You learn so much more than you would expect. And that ultimately compounds into, something that would happen a lot quicker than if you were to do it later on in life. And yeah, I think it's, failing fast and failing often, and then being able to take that to ultimately build what you want to build is
interesting take.
Yeah.
I've noticed that when you say this, there are certain things that I do when I sort of spend more time prepping it, like organizing the flow, and also like spend really lots of time filming the things and doing the preparation well. Tends to be the one that perform worse. But the one that I was like, oh, screw it, man, I'll do it. Like I did the photo walk. I went just out of the blue. I didn't even plan to do it. I just like, okay, I'm gonna GoPro to my chest and go do it. Oh, the performance and then the excitement, the energy, I can hear myself, the smiling that I got in the video. I'm like, that is me having fun. That is me at my best mood. Why don't I do this more? And then need to escalate myself into a way that, look, man, you need to let your ego go with this big ass camera things carrying all the lenses. It's just like, you need one, go. I did that, I just like, I let go all the things and sold half of my gears, still plenty, but my God, it was so good. Like I realized that, oh man, if I didn't realize this sooner, I could have been worse. Like I could have been gone, like in terms of doing content.
Yeah.
Because I've saw many content creators right now quit because I don't blame them. They don't find it fun doing it anymore. They don't feel like they needed to do it anymore. It's not really an important factor in their life anymore. They can do other things and make a living out of it. But for me, look, my son is in school. My house is paid for. Everything is covered. Food's on the table. I'm not in debt. I don't need a fancy car. If I can buy whenever I want it. What else do I need for? Making content. That was it. Simplify the whole things off. Not, how to say, I don't want much. I just want enough. Enough is enough.
Yeah.
We are surpassing 2-hour mark. FYI. I told you, bro.
2 hour 20, yes.
Yeah, I told you, bro. Right. It's normal for podcasts. One, you don't think about how long you want to talk about. And I can guarantee anyone who, even the person who don't know how to talk, come on the show, please. I will give you 2 hours of bitterness or bittersweet conversation. Wait, before we go, I think we need to go eat and stuff. It's like 6 o'clock. Are you doing anything today?
Oh, good. No, we're around.
Where? Oh,
we're here. No, we put the whole.
Oh, okay.
For you.
But after this, you go back.
No, we can join you if you want.
Okay. I have no plan yet. You can go somewhere, I guess. Because I make myself a promise that I need to eat with you guys at least once.
Okay. Let's
Remember last time I missed that?
Yeah.
Dude, that was the worst time because I went through a lot of scheduling conflicts.
That's okay. Yeah.
That was the time in that company I told you that ruined my project halfway. Okay, go to the last question. Why do you like Cambodia? Or what do you like about Cambodia? I'm starting to ask people this question. Like, look, it doesn't have to be like super smart or what. Just what would you tell your friend about Cambodia if you want them to come, or if you like I asked, hey Dom, how is Cambodia? Like, what would you say? That's a lot. That's a lot in there.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot because it kind of goes back, and this is not a non-answer because it's just more of the energy that you feel when you actually like touch down here. You're in the city. You're interacting with the culture, with the people. It's something that is non-comparable to anywhere else I've been in the world from personal experience. And quite frankly, my friends at home, they don't really understand, like, even for knowing, like friends from university and beyond, they don't understand, like, oh, Dom, podcast Cambodia, like, explain. And the only thing I can tell them is, like, next time, get on a plane, come with me. I want to show you, like, why this time commitment, why everything means to me what it means to me, and that's really the best way I can explain it. It's I just it's just the energy, the culture of the people, just it's everything, and there's such a strong opportunity here too, in terms of long term for business, and I think that's probably my short and concise.
No, it's all good. I like I said, there's no right or wrong answer to this.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Even my own people too, I ask them too,
Yeah.
because sometimes we don't even know our own like value until like people ask. Like if people come ask me, oh, what do you like about Cambodia? I would tell them the whole thing. I would know exactly what I want to say without even thinking about what to come first. Because like you said earlier, come to Cambodia to see it. Even not just Cambodia, anywhere in the world. Like if you're really interested into a country or a place, go see yourself.
Yeah.
Don't let others tell you how it feels like. Let yourself explain it to yourself and feel the energy. You're not the first person who say about the energy here. But I feel like this need to be repeated more often to the local and also to the expat as well. To look into a brighter side on how far we became. And look, man, no disrespect to the neighbor country. I love the neighbor country as well. Like they have their own way of life. But people have different feeling, different experience, different preferences. So let it be, right? What about you, Max? Don't smile. Smile is boring. Max is boring. But before we go, we need to do this.
I think for me, it's like it's a really big transformation that's happening. Like the country, there are very few countries in the world that have been through what Cambodia has been through. And I think what that means for the people, at least, is that they're very open to rethinking how to go about things. And I think, you really feel that. Like in this region in Southeast Asia, I just believe it's like the most high potential country, because you've got such a positivity for people that just want to redefine people's perceptions. I think that's the big thing.
Agree. I totally agree. I got goosebumps hearing this because I follow Max a lot. I saw you went like golfing. You like go to the ocean, to the island, all these things. It's like you're really enjoying yourself here.
Yeah.
Like I would not believe someone who say they enjoy themselves here without seeing them like going places like this. Like what local would do, And that's really what make me like respect the expat a lot more, is that they integrate themselves. Look, I'm not forcing you to eat bahak or go like hang out with Khmer all the time. It's not that, like, but don't differentiate yourself as it like, oh, I'm an expat, I have to do this. Oh, local, they do that, I would not do it. Like the thing is like the way you two, like I noticed in during the event, like how local treated you and how you treated the local. It was not even like, there's not even a line saying, oh, this is expat, this is local. It's not there, right? It's just like a glass of water where you pour like coffee in or tea in. It's just in the water, in the glass, right? That's how it should be. And I'm trying so hard to explain to people here is that, look, let's not label. Like, we talk about like gender, right? Okay, I don't want to touch on that. I'm just saying labeling. Like you don't need to label this guy is Barang, this guy is like from Africa, or this guy from like the Arab, or this thing. No, don't label people. Just be friend with them, right? Why you need to think about, oh, I want to be friend with this or Japanese, Korean. I'm so lucky that when I went abroad, I wasn't like that. I would never care. Should I be friend with Asian or like or white or people of color? It was not the case. But I was always being viewed as the weird one because I'm friends with everyone. But then you know what? When like graduation party or like big event happening, I was always there. People was wondering how the hell I get in. Dude, it was all my friends. And like genuinely friends. So I get in. Like I got invited. They were like, the hell this guy? All over the place is like, see, these things, the advantage you got because you're not faking being friendly to anyone just because you think, oh, this is cool to have many friends. It was never the case for me. And I actually like have you traveled across the US?
Yeah.
Like did you do the drive or
So I haven't personally done Route 66.
Oh.
If that's the big one my family has. That was funny enough. That's actually for them being like European immigrants. This was the one drive that they had to do in their lifetime because it's such an iconic drive, and you see
the whole things.
And you see like old America, like old US, but prior to all the highways and everything. But I have been fortunate enough to spend times in the Midwest and places like Colorado, Utah, California. These areas where the landscape is incredible.
Yeah. I drove from my school from Vermont to California.
Wow.
Yeah, for 3 weeks.
Wow.
I decided not to live in the US after that. Not because I hate it, because I realized that it's too big.
Too big. Yeah.
And also I miss my home because I saw different like color from different area. Not color of the skin, but color of the culture. Color of lifestyle and how they live and how people like doing their daily chore, all of these things just changed my mind completely. And like I came back, people ask me what you've done in the US. The only thing I would tell them is that I drove across the US. I'm proud of that. Like that experience, not many Americans can do that too. And also like, you really understand what America is all about. No disrespect to you.
I went to university in America, so
of course you do. That's why I thought you were American.
Yeah.
You so American, by the way. You're like Mac is like American with the British. Nah. It's good. Like even Cambodia too. I've done Cambodia like circle too. Like the whole, all 25 city and provinces. I've been. Not many people done it, and that's why I am here today, because when I took that trip, I was at Sabai. I was doing this the road home. After that project, I quit. I had more fun being outside, traveling, doing content than being in the office. My salary back then was $1,800. 2017. It's quite good.
Yeah.
With bonuses, all of these things. A lot.
Yeah.
I just gave up. Got nothing in my pocket. I don't know how the hell I worked for 4 years. I got zero saving. I got married. I had a son. I got a bike. I sold my bike. I got nothing left. That was it. All right. Good. Okay. Yep. 2 hours and a half exactly. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad that I got to prove you right. Thank you, Max and Dom, for coming on. And I'm pretty sure we're gonna have the part 2, maybe in bigger studios. Who knows? Who knows?
Rolls Royce.
No. Either way, it's gonna be in a car. Yeah. I'm definitely looking into do the podcast on the drive, like having someone drive us, and then we sit in the car and talk, and like go somewhere and eat and stuff. It like more like a flow of doing certain activity. It would be fun. I want to see that, like like
That'd be really cool.
yeah,
That'd be cool. That'd be awesome.
Why not? They have to do it, man. Okay អ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាអរគុណមែនតើជាមួយនឹងការស្ដាប់ហើយ thank you Dom and Max again for coming on
អរគុណ
សូមអធិស្ឋានបើសិនជាមានពាក្យពេចន៍ណាមួយលើសឬក៏ប៉ះពាល់ដល់ណាម្នាក់ដោយចេតនាគឺអត់មានម្ដងតែនិយាយអង់គ្លេសមិនដឹងគេស្ដាប់បានបើស្ដាប់បានល្អស្ដាប់បានទេមើល Subtitle នឹងមានជាភាសាខ្មែរភាសាអង់គ្លេសតែខ្មែរអាចខុសខ្លះតែអង់គ្លេសគឺ 100% accurate. So see you guys in the next episode. Thank you. Bye bye.